Yay!
So I'm Namrata. I'm a postdoctoral fellow in Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center, and it was a pleasure working with Molly for this session. I feel like rather than I letting her know what to do in the project, I learned a lot from her. That was like learning and teaching at the same time. So I work in the field of neurofibromatosis. It's a benign tumor which could lead to malignancy. And when Ira approached me that, hey, she want to work with the lymphoma. So she was well prepared. She already knew the molecular thing that is associated with cancer and everything. And one fun thing about Molly is she's always ready to take anything that is new. She'll just go for it and she'll do all the tasks that need to be done to accomplish it. So I'm so proud of her and I can't wait for her to present her work. So Molly, take it away.
Okay, hi, so I'm Molly. I'm in 11th grade and I'm also at the Fieldston High School in the Bronx. Next. So a little bit about Namrata. As she mentioned, she's a postdoctoral fellow in the Cincinnati Children's Hospital, but she currently lives in Cincinnati, but was born in Nepal. And she loves riddles, AC/DC, and the MCU movies. And a fun fact is we always start and end our meetings with a riddle. And yeah, that's a picture of us. Next. Okay, so my project was a little bit different than the other two projects. I focused on researching anaplastic large cell lymphoma. So next. So what is anaplastic large cell lymphoma? So a lymphoma is a cancer that starts in the lymphatic system, and anaplastic large cell lymphoma, or ALCL, was first described in 1985. It's a type of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and a type of T-cell lymphoma, and T-cells are just a type of cell of the immune system, and that is a picture of what anaplastic large cell lymphoma looks like. Next. So what does ALCL affect? So it's an invasion of the lymph node sinuses. Tumors are identifiable by their large cytoplasm. It's called anaplastic cells. So on the right, you can see a picture of what a normal cell should look like versus a cell with anaplasia. And as you can see, an anaplastic cell is a lot bigger and has a more unique shape. It's not as round. And all the cells of anaplastic large cell lymphoma cells show morphological heterogeneity, which means the cell structures vary. So not all cells will look exactly like that one, but all of them will have a slightly deformed cytoplasm and will be a lot larger than a normal cell. And affected cells can form tumors in lymph nodes, skin, bones, and internal organs. Next. So there's two different types of anaplastic large cell lymphoma, ALK positive and ALK negative. So ALK is just a type of protein that is involved in cell growth and division. And for ALK positive ALCL, abnormal lymphocytes have a genetic mutation that results in the production of too much of the ALK protein, which is more common in younger patients. And ALK negative anaplastic large cell lymphoma will also produce ALK, but in ALK positive ALCL, the production is just abnormally high and faster rates, and there's a better prognosis. And ALK positive ALCL has a better prognosis than ALK negative ALCL, and that's again pictures. So throughout my project, I found myself reading a lot of research papers, a lot of scientific journal articles, and going into this to the MAGIC program, I knew I wanted to do something with lymphoma. I had done a little bit of research on lymphoma in the past, and also my grandfather died of lymphoma, not anaplastic large cell lymphoma, but lymphoma. So I wanted to learn a little bit more about it. So I started off by reading a lot of articles about lymphoma in general, and it is a very, very vast topic. So I started reading about the different types of lymphoma, and after reading about anaplastic large cell lymphoma, I decided I wanted to focus on that because I found the abnormal shapes of the cells very interesting. So yeah, every week I would read a couple articles and then present to Namrata on all my findings. But I also wanted to be able to add data to show to you guys today. Next slide. So I decided to make a survey to gauge how much my school knows about lymphoma. So before I explain that, I wanted to explain what an IRB is. So an IRB is an institutional review board, which is a committee that applies research ethics by reviewing the methods proposed for research to ensure that they are ethical. So before sending out the survey, I had to have my survey reviewed by a board, and so my IRB board was my club. So I ended up sending my survey to my club, and the executive members, as well as the faculty advisor, served as the IRB. So before I sent out the survey, I obviously had to form questions. And so I reread a bunch of the articles and just put together a list of questions that I thought would be able to fully show in the fewest amount of questions possible how much my club members knew about lymphoma. So I formed the questions based off of those articles, and then sent the survey to the other executive members, as well as the advisor, and got their formal permission in email. And then finally sent out the form to everyone and made sure that they knew that all results are anonymous and voluntary. So of course, no one was forced to take the survey, and if they did decide to take the survey, they did not have to fill out all the questions. And after a couple of days of waiting, we finally got responses and translated those responses into graphs. So next slide. So the first question I asked is, have you heard of lymphoma? So 77.8% had heard of lymphoma, which was great to hear. It was a little surprising, but 22.2% had not. And only 16.7% had known someone with lymphoma, and 83.3% had not. So it was good to see that people knew about lymphoma from sources other than a diagnosed person, because that's how I found out about lymphoma, and obviously it's not the ideal way of learning about what lymphoma is. So next slide. So 83.3% of the people who took the survey said that they would want to hear more about cancer or lymphoma in the classroom, which again, I love to see. And the question that was the most interesting, in my opinion, was, do you think lymphoma can be treated? And here, 61.1% said yes, while 38.9% said no. So it's interesting to see the uncertainty in the school around what cancer treatment, specifically lymphoma treatment. So next slide. I just wanted to tell you guys a little bit more about anaplastic large cell lymphomas treatments and therapies. So for ALK positive ALCL, there's a bunch of different antibiotics that have been prescribed, and radiotherapy and chemotherapy are also have been prescribed to patients, but it's very debated. In all the treatments, there's not one specific treatment or therapy that's agreed upon by all scientists, which made researching therapies and treatments a lot more interesting. For patients at high risk of relapse, high-dose chemotherapy and stem cell transplantation is highly recommended, and clinical studies have reported excellent results using this new drug called BV, and it's good for relapsed ALCL. So next slide. So the last question I asked on my survey was what factors everyone thought went into ALCL. So just the real facts are there is a male predominance in anaplastic large cell lymphoma, and the genetics are 100% involved in getting lymphoma, as the cancer is formed by mutation in the genes. And it typically affects adults 40 to 65 years old, but people of all ages are diagnosed. Oh, and as I said, there's a male predominance. Females can also be diagnosed with ALCL. And yes, any person can be diagnosed with ALCL of any age too. And one interesting fact is that people with breast implants are more prone to ALCL, which was a very unexpected fact. And that has a specific type of ALCL called breast implant associated ALCL. So it's interesting to see that so many people thought, like, for example, comorbidities were involved, which they aren't very as much, or they haven't been proven yet. And yes, it was good to see that everyone thought genetics was involved. So yeah, it was really, making this survey taught me a lot about why, like, analyzing graphs, as well as the process that takes for scientists to collect data. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you. Oh, sorry, not not it yet. So as I mentioned before, we always start or end our meetings with a riddle. So I wanted to do it with you guys today. So why are chemists excellent at solving problems? And okay, next. Because they have all the solutions. So yeah. So next, sorry. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to Namrata, Magic, Hollis, everyone who took the time to fill out my survey, and Mr. Vega for introducing me to Magic. And that's my bibliography. And thank you for listening.
Fantastic job. We are 3 for 3 tonight on such fantastic and impressive presentations. I will open it up to questions, and I see Mr. Vega has one first.
Hi, Molly. Fantastic job. I wanted to know about how you got the idea to do the IRB. I thought that was a great addition to what you did.
Well, I really enjoyed reading all the papers, and I thought it was really interesting learning about all the specifics, including like the small, like the genes that are involved, like all the specifics. But I thought it would be really cool to be able to show something other than what I found in my research. So I wanted to put graphs, be able to show graphs that might be just more understandable and more interesting to see, especially at Fieldston, and like seeing if anyone, the question I was most excited to hear about was whether people want to hear more about like cancer in the classroom, just to see, I don't know, how much people are learning in like biology about cancer.
Wonderful. We have a couple kudos to you in the chat here, and another great job, and interesting. The survey was an interesting way to extend your knowledge and research to see how it related to your community. And John, you have a question?
Yes. Did my audio go in? Yeah. Hey, Molly, great job. I was wondering if the project made you feel like what you're interested in for a career change. So if you want to go into research, or maybe a physician or oncology, anything like that, like, did it like spark any thoughts of the future for you?
Yeah, I mean, I worked in a lab last summer, like lab work on lymphoma, and I actually like the research aspect more than the actual like lab part of it. So I guess I'm not really sure. I'm still trying to think. Don't have any idea what I want to go into, but I do know that biology still remains like a really strong interest of mine. So I can't wait to see how I can like apply it in maybe other ways other than like lab work.
Great questions. Do we have any further questions for Molly?
No question, but an amazing job. All 3 mentees, I mean, they all did such different projects, and those were all so interesting. So much hard work. Thanks to all the mentors as well.